Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On this episode we're going to talk about how to string electric wire across a creek crossing and keep your critters from walking up through the creek bed. Let's go to it. Okay, so issue we have in West Virginia, of course, we don't have flat land. Not something we can take advantage of all the time. So this is a perfect example of no matter how hard you try to get your fence posts right, you can see coming down the hill, I've got my elevation right, everything's doing good there. But then I come down to what we call our stone creek crossing. In front of me is actually my road that comes down the side of the mountain, crosses the valley. This is the main watershed through the valley, and this is solid stone. So obviously I can't put a fence post here and tighten this this fence down, make the V to keep the fence low. A, because I'm trying to drive a fence post into stone, but B, this creek right now, it's August, this creek is dried up, but I've seen this creek roll where it'd be up to my thighs. It's really rolled some water before. So a fence post there would just get washed out, tear the fence out. Obviously we don't want that. So how do you do this? Well, we've got a really neat hack that a friend of mine taught me, and I'm going to share that with you guys. Okay, so what do you need to do this hack? Well, my buddy Daniel taught me this with very basic stuff. What I have, you don't necessarily have to have the exact. You can have representation of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make like a shower curtain, if you will. We're just going to have these wires that hang down on this wire. But we need two things. We need the wire to hang down, and then of course we need spacers. So the wire I have, obviously you could just use the 14 gauge that you have that if you've run your fence, or a 17 gauge. But the problem with that is if you've taken it off the roll, it's obviously going to have a spiral to it. It's going to have a curve. So everything's just going to look like curls hanging down when you want a nice straight wire. So what I got, this was given to me, but I know these aren't very expensive. This is the wire that you get from suspended ceiling, like the ceiling you have in your basement with the tiles. The tracks, the wires that hold those tracks, you can get these wires pretty cheaply, and so that works well. But then also, the spacer I'm just using some irrigation hose. This is the 1/4 inch irrigation. This is, again, what I have a lot of extra. The reason why I'm using this, I got a bunch of it left over, but also it's UV grade, so it can handle being outside without breaking down. So that's going to be our spacer. So these two components are all we need. So I'll show you what to do there. So of course we need some cutters to be able to cut through our wire. Again, using this heavier wire, this is a little bit heavier than the 14 gauge. This feels like it may be a 12 gauge type wire, this suspended ceiling wire. So we need to be able to cut that and bend it. And then of course, you want to take this hose, because this is going to be our spacer. And of course, since you've already got your fence stretched, you can't slide this on the fence very easily. So what you got to do is split it. So I just simply take a razor knife. Cam, come help me please, real quick, please, buddy. And I've split some of this already. But we need to determine the length that we need. Come stand on that end like you did. So I just take my razor knife, and of course just stick it in there and get it going. Pull it taut. Just split it all the way down. Okay, measure off how much I need. Hop off there for a second, buddy. So from there to there. Okay, so what do? Well, you want to take your vertical fence, your vertical wire, whatever you're using. Again, it needs to be conductive. The whole point of this is to make these little shower curtain pins that hang down conductive. So imagine if you just had these on here loose without any spacers in it, there's a chance they could all get pushed together just like a shower curtain or a curtain rod, curtains, and you're not going to have this coverage. So the wire is to be used as a spacer. So what I've done, I've taken my needle nose pliers, and I've just bent about beyond 360 degrees. What that allows me to do is just simply slide that on there. There, so it just hangs. So I didn't have to worry about twisting it around the fence, just let it hang there. You can see I've got it a couple inches off the surface of the bedrock there. So what's that going to do when it rains? Well, obviously when it rains and the creek gets up, then that'll be an issue. Obviously it'll be grounding out in the water, but at least the water won't be tearing it down. If some debris comes down and hits it, of course it's just going to make it flip back. No big deal. Just like with snow and those type of things, you're always going to have to contend with the elements with your electric fence. When snow piles up too high on your fence, you got an issue there. You got to go dig it out. With this, I know in the wintertime this is going to run a little deeper, so I may come back and just cut these short. Again, this is going to be my sow pasture, so I can probably be 8 inches, 10 inches off the ground there, and it won't be that big a deal. My sows are trained well enough not to go through, but piglets or whatever may go blasting through that. So all you do, of course, is get your vertical set up. Like I'd want that one to be positioned there, and then take your section of hose that you have that we've split already, or we've rived down the front. Those pay attention last episode. So think, okay, how much distance do I want between this and the next one? Well, again, just imagine a pig going through, the width of a pig. So I'm going to go maybe 6 inches. So I just simply cut that. I've got this again, split in twain here. So I just simply snake it on here. And get all the little twists out of it. And there you go. So see what that does. Once you've got all these daisy chained together at the certain height you want, if you've got it pushed against this insulator and you've got it pushed against your other insulator, then there's not going to be any movement there. So even though this slides back and forth, once you have all these in a row, then it kind of becomes like a stack of cookies in a packet. I guess you can tell I'm hungry. It's one of those things that you can't push back and forth. You have that resistance there. But that's just the simple trick. And we're going to go ahead and do several of these. Now again, you don't have to use irrigation hose. You can use whatever. You can use PVC. But if you've got your fence already in place, be sure to use something that you can rip down the back so it can clip on there. And again, it doesn't have to be non-insulation, or it doesn't have to be insulation. It can be a conductor. It doesn't matter. Again, there's no reason to have this insulated. I just kind of like the idea if I ever had to come through and adjust it, then I can grab this without getting soup knocked out of me. So there you go. Well, all right, we've got all the wires installed, and we now have our curtain of doom here with so all these pins. We separated them about 8 to 10 inches apart. And of course, again, not going to have them touch the ground here. Going to give them a little bit of clearance for water. Probably 90% of the time the water's only a couple inches deep as it runs over this little waterfall here. But the landscape hose is a smaller diameter. It clips on nice, but you may want something a little bit bigger diameter to keep the rings from moving around. If somebody comes down and messes with this, they're going to get shocked, obviously, but they can hop up and move over a little bit. So in hindsight, maybe something a little bit thicker, but I just went back and also crimped those rings down a little bit more, so it made that opening smaller. But it should work. Now, obviously, we haven't electrified this portion of the fence yet, but once we get all the fence set up, I'll put the tester on it. But there should be no reason why it shouldn't hold the charge. Again, nothing's touching. Some of the spots where it's touching the weeds, obviously, we'll ground it out a little bit. I can come back and cut those weeds out. So I wanted to put my tester on this and just see how accurate our little curtain of doom here was going to work. And so I got my digital fence tester with my probe in the ground there somewhere. So I'm just going to touch both leads to the fence. And you can see I'm getting 5.32. I'll do that again since it disappeared. Yeah, so a little about 5,500 kilovolts is what we're getting there. So if you get into that, that'll break you a sucking eggs real quick. So it's works pretty well. So we haven't had anybody give it a test drive yet. I just now got the sows moved over into the new pasture, but I think this will accommodate them. So you can see here, obviously enough clearance. There's about anywhere, there's 1 inch. I probably need to trim that one. That one's only 1 inch from the bedrock there. So when the water gets up, that one's going to ground out. But you can see here, just a little anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of clearance on the bottom. And if water gets up or debris comes down, it's just going to make that swing back and forth. So it won't won't be an issue as far as tearing anything down. Obviously it'll short it out a little bit while the water's up, but this stream goes down pretty quickly within hours. So Dave Kittle in Arkansas sent me an email that had some details of his composting toilet. If you go back a couple episodes, you see where we were talking about building our outdoor shower and toilet for the retreat. What type of toilet would we build? Would it be composting? Would it be septic system? And so we asked you guys to give us some feedback. Well, Dave stepped up and gave us some really good feedback, and he sent us pictures detailing his composting toilet he has in his cabin in Arkansas. So what was really neat about it, and as you see in the pictures, so he built it out of cedar. And I really like how he's built it. He's built it to look like what you would expect the traditional shape of a toilet to be. Notice the back box is where he stores his sawdust. He has the trash can there with the sawdust that he can get to. And of course the actual receptacle that's catching the human waste is just a bucket. He says he keeps 2 buckets there that he can swap them in and out, so he doesn't have to run out, clean one, and bring it back. According to his email, at least 8 people are using that toilet on a regular basis, so it's definitely handling what he needs to do. And he said there's no smell. And what I thought was kind of cool is his sawdust. He's actually getting the sawdust from his property. As he runs his chainsaw, he throws a tarp down at the spot where he's running his chainsaw, so that chainsaw, of course, coming out of the sawdust coming out of the chainsaw, throws sawdust all over the tarp, and then he can just gather that up, and then, wow, he's got composting material for his composting toilet. So I thought that was really cool. He also sent some pictures of his off-grid cabin that he's building. This is where the composting toilet is, and really like that. Man, I'm really digging that. I'd love to see more pictures of that. The corrugated metal on the side, I think, is a really nice touch. I love the, even some of it's weathered, rusted a little bit. I think it looks so cool. Very, very neat detail. And David, it may be worth a road trip to come see in Arkansas. I'd love to be able to see what you got going on there. It looks like a pretty cool setup, so I appreciate you sending that. And obviously we encourage anyone, if you've got some advice, you got some suggestions, or you just want to show what you've got going on at your homestead, you can send pictures like David did. You can even email video, or if you want to email me in advance and want to send me a lot of video that your email can't handle, maybe it's too big for your email, send me in advance and I'll send you a Dropbox link. And you can drop that to me, and I'd be more than happy to feature it. Could even call you an interview if you want to give some details there. So again, we don't claim to be experts, but we want to share as much homesteading stuff as we can. So feel free to do that. You can email me at troy@redtoolhouse.com. Don't forget, within the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing a drawing for our Red Toolhouse hat. That's what it is. We'll be doing a drawing for that, and again, you're automatically entered if you're on our email list. So just go to redtoolhouse.com, down at the bottom, hit the newsletter button, subscribe, and you'll be on that list. And again, if you like this video, by all means give us a thumbs up, subscribe. Somewhere here there's a button to subscribe if you haven't, and just be sure to check out some of our other videos. As my wife and I think about the theme of our channel, it really boils down to the fact that we just want to encourage and we want to help enable anybody to homestead, whether it's from a balcony of a high-rise apartment or on 1,000 acres in the middle of nowhere. We just want to get everybody excited and get everyone energized to do that. But it really boils down to, no matter what you do, we just want to say, get out and get your hands dirty. So that's how we'd like to close out our videos. It's just, we appreciate you guys watching, and we just want you to get out and get your hands dirty. Take care.